Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, this is Robert Smigel with Canada's podcast, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen here in British Columbia. Get ready for an inspiring conversation with Paul Atherton. Paul is the CEO and co-founder of Highspire, a premier learning experience for construction company owners, complemented by a powerful venture capital division. Beyond his leadership at Highspire, Paul is a longtime advisor in the construction sector, known for his strategic insight and ability to drive growth and innovation. His commitment to excellence, coupled with his industry-spanning experience, has established him as a trusted figure in helping companies navigate complex challenges and achieve their strategic goals. Paul, welcome to Canada's podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to share your entrepreneurial journey with all our listeners.
Hi, Robert. Thanks so much for having me and for that intro. My wife will be rolling her eyes later when she hears this.
Oh, don't worry. We can tell her that we'll just tell her not to watch that part. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about yourself and your current business. I know you're in Victoria. Are you from Victoria? Victoria, where are you from, and how'd you get your business going?
Yeah, so from Victoria, born here, moved to the North Island and Campbell River for quite a while, and then spent a number of years traveling around the world, working for various companies in very exciting industries. Somehow Forrest Gumped myself into business coaching, and then came up with this idea, Highspire, and found some partners that were willing to go in with me, and here we are. There's kind of some nuances to entrepreneurship that I think every entrepreneur takes, and I generally followed that path.
Okay, so most likely you've been an employee before. So what job experience has helped you the most in both the work you currently do and the role as an entrepreneur? So some of the things that you obviously worked in a company before and you brought to your current life, what does that look like and how has it helped?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I think, for me, a lot of entrepreneurs get into entrepreneurship earlier in their career. They just recognize at a very young age that they're unemployable and they start a business and get at it. For myself, I worked with a number of teams and companies and grew a lot of experience and a large network and built up a little nest egg and learned quite a lot about a very specific niche. And then I think when all those kind of ingredients cross paths, that just kind of led me into deciding to kind of go out on my own. Coupled with that, I think I wanted looking back, I think I wanted my wife and my kids to just us to all go on a journey as a family and build something. So.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you need financing to start your company, and how do you currently make money in your business now? How do you get the dollars?
Right. Okay. So to start this business was actually quite capital intensive because we do have an investment fund that's quite expensive to get going. We also have a coaching business, and you had to build a brand, and we have to hire staff. So to get it going, it took myself and my three partners. We had to infuse capital into the business. But fortunately, as soon as we started, like I said, we leveraged our network and were able to get customers right out of the gate. And there's basically two revenue streams. There's the coaching revenue stream, and that's a monthly subscription fee that we charge our clients depending on what their tier they're in. And then another source of revenue is our capital fund. Completely different cash flow plan. Like with these types of things, you don't really see capital until you've done what you need to do, and that can take anywhere from 2 to 5 years typically with the asset classes that we invest in. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, give me a piece of knowledge or information about your industry that you can share with us that would benefit our listeners. There's something that is kind of unique that the common person may not know.
Well, one of the things that we do that's quite, appealing to the broader population is we invest in real estate. Real estate is it's a flashy industry. It's there's a lot of players in it, and it tends to perk up people's ears when they hear that you're in real estate. And now, one of the things that I've learned is there's basically two camps. And this is my own anecdotal experience. I might be wrong, but there's two large camps in the real estate sector. There's a camp where there's a lot of hubris and flash and pomp, and there's a huge focus on money and leveraging yourself and brand, and it's just big and flashy. And what I've learned, though, is the real money, these people where the other camp exists, is these people are quiet. They kind of like to be left alone, and they're good operators. And so the piece of advice that I would give to anyone who's interested in real estate is to try to find the network of entrepreneurs and business owners who are kind of in that world, where they're just focused on getting people on base. They're not looking at getting home runs, and they're just focused on sticking to a good system in real estate investment over many years, and then watching the compound effect happen without losing sleep at night or getting out over their skis.
Stay ahead of the game with our expert tips and strategies that will help your business thrive in a digital era. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
Let's talk a little bit about doing business in British Columbia and what that looks like for you. I know that you do have clients in the US, you are based in Victoria, but what are the biggest benefits for you as an entrepreneur in BC? Can you share some of the good points about starting a company in British Columbia, but also what are some of the challenges that you've encountered along the way while you're working in British Columbia and what that looks like?
Yeah, speaking frankly, one of the wonderful points of working in BC is there's very professional, like in Victoria, Vancouver, especially where a lot of our staff are from. It's a very professional cities. You have a very large talent pool, a very large network to draw from right out of the gate. You can go and have coffee with people that are absolute experts in very specific areas, from branding to sales to finance to, we have some of the best lawyers I've ever met, and they've, definitely beat out some of the lawyers that we've met in the US, and they all exist here. So the talent pool in BC, I would say, is very, very strong. That's like one immediate advantage that comes to mind. You can really leverage a very powerful network in your home base if you are from British Columbia. Challenges, again, based on what we're seeing, it's easier to make money in real estate in the US right now. Yeah, it's
is that right? BC's got a lot, we're known for real estate, it's a very robust real estate market. And you'd think a person in real estate would be focusing on where the gold is, so to speak. But is that the way it works as far as real estate between US and Vancouver?
I bet there's a lot of people that would ruffle their feathers and just say this guy's crazy. But when we compare deals that we're seeing in British Columbia versus the opportunities that arise in the US, there's a discrepancy there, unfortunately. One thing BC has going for it is growth, and there's income growth. The regulation's quite high, and the taxes are quite high, and it takes quite a long time to get things like entitlements pushed through. And there's not as much money flowing in BC as there. Like, I think investors, there's a lot of fatigue because unfortunately, what happened in COVID is there was a peak, and then a lot of people paid too much money for land. Construction costs went up, interest rates went up, and like I said before, they're kind of out over their skis a little bit. And we didn't see those same impacts in the States as much. Just because it's just a larger market, it's a really big pie, and I think there's just more opportunity down there.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs who may encounter similar challenges?
Do you mean challenges? There's a bit of context here. Do you mean challenges as just on dealing with?
Yeah, so like, for example, challenges of doing business in British Columbia compared to doing it in the US. What have you encountered? Some of the things that you've learned along the way for someone say who's an entrepreneur in real estate in British Columbia, and you're doing a lot of business in the US. What are some of those challenges that you've overcome and kind of moving into the US?
Yeah, I mean my business partner, Jordan, he does a lot of real estate in real estate deals in British Columbia. He operates here and he does very well here. And he'd probably be better to speak to this, but him and I talk quite frequently, and so with him, he only works with a very few people that he trusts. So that's one way that he overcomes challenges. A lot of people, they tend to get in too deep with people that they don't have experience with, or people who don't have a proven track record of success. So that's one thing that we've seen. We only work with like people who have dozens of iterations of success in doing a specific thing, whether it be environmental law or building a fund, or even an architect coming up with a plan for redoing the exterior of a building. So one would be just make sure you're only operating with people who have that track record of success. Yeah, that's a big one. Another one would be look for opportunities where other people haven't might not see value. Like one that I'm noticing where people are making money is motel and hotel conversions. You have a building, usually in an urban center with a lot of activity happening, and if you can convert that into multifamily, that seems to be doing pretty well. And then you don't have as many regulatory challenges to overcome as far as addressing tenants and things like that. You just have like building code issues, and if you have a good engineer and a good architect, they can usually help with that.
Okay.
So,
now, yeah. I want you to imagine you're starting all over again. You've just moved to British Columbia, Victoria, Vancouver. If you were to start all over again, you just moved back to Vancouver, you don't know anyone, how would you go about starting all over again? What are some of the things that you think you made mistakes at that you would do differently this time, knowing what you know now?
Oh, wow. Great question. One, I think in life, you can see a lot of success and a lot of suffering, regardless of how good your business is doing. One would be, okay, here's what I would do. I would come up with anti-goals right away. Like that's a big
anti-goals? Did you say
anti-goals? Anti-goals. So I think in business, we tend to get too focused on growth. We get too focused on what our business is going to do in the world, and how much revenue we're going to make, and net profit, how many people we're going to hire, and systems we're going to build. And you get so focused on that, a lot of other things in life can get sacrificed. So I've worked with a lot of business owners, and the most successful ones I see, they have anti-goals, and that's something that I would have put tension on very early in my life.
What is an anti-goal? What is that?
So yeah, you're going to get to that. So an anti-goal is something that you won't you won't sacrifice in pursuit of your goals. So the most successful people that I've had the pleasure of working with, it doesn't matter what's going on in their business, they will always hang out with their children, do date nights with their wife, make sure they're getting their workouts in, making sure they're getting time for personal reflection and things like that in the morning, let's say. And they'll make sure they're taking time every summer to do a couple fishing trips. They're taking time every winter to go skiing, and they're not letting their business completely take over their life, if that makes sense. They know what gives them fulfillment and happiness outside of their business, and then they operate keeping those things in mind, if that makes sense. So that would be one big one. Another one would be making sure I had a good peer network of people who are much more successful than me. It's easy in life to start believing your own BS. And if you are around people who've had tremendous success, you can, that won't happen because they'll keep you humble. And Fortunately, the people that I've met who are tremendously successful, at least from a business standpoint and from a personal standpoint, they're quite humble. And if you see that's what good looks like, it can keep you just kind of focused and on track.
Okay. That segues into my next question. How do you define success and how do you celebrate success for you?
Having a life you don't have to retire from, I think. Yeah, that's success. 'Cause I think we're too.
Enjoying your work, but your life balance and what you do every day. So it's like a Warren Buffett thing, working at 94.
Yeah, like I think it's strange. Like I've done a lot of traveling and my wife has done a lot of traveling and it's interesting how a good friend of mine actually knows a lot of languages. And we had a conversation about this recently. He said, "Do you know in many languages in the world they don't have a term for retirement? Like it's not a word."
Another language.
And yeah, and in here, like in Canada and the US, whenever you go into a bank, there's a picture of an old person on a dock, and they say this will be you one day if you bank with us, and I think that's sad because it seems like we have to get through. Like there's this, like people always tell me about like what they're because I've been a business coach for a number of years too, and people always talk about this utopian future if only they kind of get through these challenges and barriers that lay in front of them. And I think success is, yeah, not feeling like you have a life that you must retire from.
Yeah.
Um,
Like that.
you need to design a life that has a lot of balance. So that's success. And then celebrating success, I think, is just it's weird. It's in the, yeah, there's times where, yeah, you have a bottle of wine and, you open it or you go for dinner because you reached a milestone. I think that's very good. But celebrating success, I think, is a lot of the little things and giving yourself those constant moments throughout the week and throughout the day that top up your cup.
Okay. Let's talk about your routines. I know entrepreneurs are very busy people. We work a lot. But how do you balance it so you take care of yourself, eat right, you have a routine, you stick to it, there's non-negotiables? Talk a little bit about that.
A lot there, yeah. So one, I think you have to be healthy mentally. So again, just being clear on. So for me, I have to be very clear on what gives me fulfillment and happiness, and those things are taking time in the morning. So I get up, I go to bed early and get up around 4:30, and I go into my hot tub and I watch the sunrise every morning. Even when it's warm out in the summer, and I just have a coffee and I don't do anything, and I sit there for a good 45 minutes, and I don't do anything. I just sit there, and that's just been a wonderful habit of mine. It just helps. I think something happens where I just clarify things in my mind and get ready for the day, and
Must
then
be quiet at that time of the day too, right? So no one
it's
calling you,
very quiet. Yeah,
distractions, and just you and the birds.
just me and the birds and coffee and either the sun in the summer and the rain and the wind in the winter. So that's my biggest routine. That's a big anti-goal that I have. Another routine is in the afternoon. I find that lately, like being older, I get these afternoon crashes. You get tired and so that's usually when I get my workouts in, and that's been really good. That's another routine. Just get my workout in, and then before bed, I'm usually reading a good book, and then yeah, another routine. 4:30, doesn't matter what's going on, as long as I'm in town. I'm up from my desk. I work from home, and I'm playing with my little guys, and at least I try and do one date night a week with my wife as well. Nothing crazy. Like I know people they cold plunge and they have all these crazy routines. I think life is vexing enough. I don't do cold plunging or
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
impressive like that, but
Exactly. Okay.
yeah.
Which leads to the next question. If you weren't doing what you do now, what would you like to do for a profession?
Yeah, one of the great, yeah, I think about this all the time. One of the great pleasures of my life has been over the last 5 or 6 years working with a mentor of mine named John Novistad, and he's he had like he was the vice president in charge of Avon back in the 90s. He had 48,000 employees. I'm getting to my point in a second here, and just being able to talk to that man, in his 80s now, and there's so much wisdom. He can see around corners. He understands people. He genuinely cares about humanity. He's built up tremendous wealth, and he just wants to give back. And it has just been amazing talking to that guy and hanging out with him. And yeah, I think if like I flipped a light switch and all of a sudden I was looking to go do something else, I'd want to help at least entrepreneurs in Victoria here and perhaps Vancouver come in contact with that untapped wealth of knowledge that exists in like the elderly in our society. I think a lot of them are quite disengaged from the business world, and I think that's I think it's really sad in a way that a lot of people I talk to, they don't have someone who's in their 80s who's seen tremendous success in life that they can call anytime. And I would like to, I just love to be able to give that experience to more people like John and also other entrepreneurs. And I think the business community at least would be better off for it.
Canada's podcast is your gateway to success in the world of entrepreneurship. Start listening today. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
I want you to give me 2 words that would use to describe yourself and why, as far as an entrepreneur. And do you fit those typical criterias of, persistent, goal-oriented, curious, those typical things, or there's more to you than that to be a successful entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, I think what you said is probably, those are the ingredients that one of the commonalities that you see with successful entrepreneurs: persistence and curiosity and humility. And yeah, so I'm thinking of what my wife would say. She would tell me I'm naive and I'm very strategic. So
I think we need to have an interview with her next. Maybe that. Yeah. I want to get the full story here.
She's an incredible woman. Definitely naive and strategic. So yeah, to unpack that a little bit. In John, I talked about my mentor. He always says, Paul, you're a naive little SHIT. And it's going to get you into trouble. And I argue with them because I say, being naive keeps people relaxed around me, and then they show me their true selves. And then, you can learn a lot in just a few meetings if they think you're naive, and you see whether or not they're a good person. And then the strategic side of me can come into play and hopefully arrange things in such a way so that we can increase the likelihood of success. But I find being naive is good because you always assume positive intent with people you come across, and that's a good way to look at life. I find in business it's easy to get jaded, and if you just always positive intent, that you'll just enjoy your day better and not really sweat.
If you consider yourself naive, do you consult with other people, your close niche or your close people, network of people, partners, wife could be, or do you kind of get feedback, or you kind of just operate on your own, or do you get a lot of feedback from people and talk to people and get ideas and what do you think of this? Are you kind of a person that looks to other people to give you advice, perspective?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I have a great network. My business partners, I meet with them every week, and they're extremely shrewd and capable individuals. So anything that we do, we have conversations with them all the time, and we talk specifically about the actions of others and how that's going to manifest in how they do business with us. So that's one big thing that I talk about with these guys. Like I said, I talk to John Novostad all the time. I talk to my father. Most of the time I talk to my wife. She's the best life coach I've ever met.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important in life to be able to triangulate what you're doing with people who have, like I said, dozens of iterations of success doing specific things. And we try our best at least to make sure those people are coming across our path as much as possible.
Okay. Is there any advice you received along the way during your entrepreneurial journey that you can pass on to other entrepreneurs? Has someone said to you something, or other entrepreneur, you talk about your networks, but, you probably get a lot of advice, but is there any kind of thing that you could pass on to another entrepreneur that may come sit down with you and say, is there something you can tell me that someone has told you that might help me out?
Yeah. So John, he
Yeah.
said he said to me two things. He said there's this interesting juxtaposition in life. In business, if you do the same thing only better, typically it's not going to get you accelerated gains. It's going to get you a little bit more of what you have now for a lot more effort. And you see this a lot in business. These businesses will hit a ceiling and they'll just stay there for years and years until they can find out what pattern interruption they have to deploy to move to the next level. So John always told me that, and I never forgot it. Business always changes. It grows. Your leadership has to change how they lead and operate. But John said the juxtaposition is this: in your life, your habits dictate your future. And he was telling me that, I don't know if I've ever read James Clear's stuff, but he was telling me that long before I ever read James Clear. He said, what you do in your daily routine dictates your future. So in business, you can't do the same thing over and over again, but in your life, often you have to.
Okay.
So I've
So,
always tried
yeah.
to hold two pieces of advice in tension with one another.
Okay, good. Okay, we're going to wrap things up. How can our listeners get hold of you? And is there anything you'd like to add before you leave us today? Any other kind of advice or anything that I've missed that you'd like to convey to entrepreneurs throughout Canada?
Yeah. I think, I guess two things. Entrepreneurship is funny, and there has to be this general desire to help people and grow them. You have to put your staff first, customers second, and money third. And oftentimes entrepreneurs flip those two things. And I think that's something that people should put more attention on.
Okay.
That's one big piece of advice that was given to me. And yeah, because you can't grow anything unless your staff are 100% aligned with what you're doing. And yeah, they have to just really, really trust you. And yeah, another one, there's a lot of professionals I know who are very successful, working as professionals, working for companies, and they always think, what if I go out on my own? And they have those ingredients. They have a good network. They've built up a nest egg, and they really understand their market. And I just love to encourage people to just take that step. It's okay. It's actually your life probably will improve if you're able to kind of make that leap.
Yeah. So if someone was looking at you saying, give me some advice, do I want to be an entrepreneur? You'd say, have a nest egg, look at your network, and obviously have a product or a service that people are going to want. Those are things
Well,
that.
I think a lot of people think they have a product that people will want, and they find out the hard way that that isn't the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to know your market really well.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to know what their core needs are, and you have to be able to brand and market yourself in a way so that you can sell your product. And that can only be acquired through probably years of knowledge of working with those people or having advisors who have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, we're going to wrap things up here. Thanks for coming on the show, Paul. It's been a great interview. I've learned a lot about you, and our listeners have as well.